The evening sun painted the crystal palace in shades of gold and purple. Taeyang walked beside the young prince through the garden, his hand never far from his weapon. The flowers here were strange, glowing softly as darkness approached. Everything on this alien world seemed beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Prince Huan was 7 years old, though he looked nothing like a human child. His body was made of something like living crystal, smooth and semi-transparent. Light moved through him in patterns that changed with his mood. Right now, those patterns were calm and curious. "Tell me another story about Earth," the prince said. His voice had a musical quality that most Velrosians shared. "Tell me about the monsters." Taeyang smiled slightly. The prince loved Earth mythology, especially the scary parts. "What kind of monsters do you want to hear about?" "The ones that hide," Huan said. He stopped walking and looked up at Taeyang with eyes that glowed like small moons. "The ones you cannot see until they attack." "Well, humans have stories about creatures that live in shadows," Taeyang began. He kept his voice light like he was telling a bedtime story. "They wait in dark places, under beds, in closets, behind doors." The prince listened carefully. The light inside him shifted to a darker blue. "Are they real?" "No," Taeyang said. "Just stories to scare children." But even as he said it, something made him uncomfortable. His combat training had taught him to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were telling him something was wrong. They walked further into the garden. The shadows were growing longer now. The sun was setting behind the crystal towers of the palace. Huan suddenly stopped again. He was staring at the shadows on the ground. "Taeyang?" The prince's voice was different now, quieter, almost frightened. "Yes, Your Highness?" Huan pointed at the long shadows stretching across the marble path. "Will you protect me from the shadows?" The question hit Taeyang like a physical blow. His hand moved to his weapon without thinking. Every sense he had suddenly screamed danger, but there was nothing there. Just shadows. Just normal, ordinary shadows cast by the setting sun. He looked down at the small prince. The boy was trembling slightly, his crystal body flickering with uncertain light. This was not just curiosity. The prince was genuinely afraid. "Always," Taeyang said firmly. "I will always protect you." Huan nodded slowly. He seemed relieved but still scared. They walked back to the palace in silence. Taeyang scanned everything around them. The garden, the walls, the shadows. He saw nothing unusual, but the feeling would not go away. Inside the palace, the throne room was full of people. Well, not people exactly. Velrosians. Dozens of them, all made of crystal in different colors. They were having some kind of formal gathering. Queen Nari sat on her throne, tall and elegant, her crystal form a deep blue that showed her royal status. Prince Huan ran to his mother. "Mother, mother!" The queen smiled down at her son. "What is it, my child?" Taeyang wanted to stop what was about to happen. He could feel it coming, but he was too far away and the prince was already speaking. "Mother, will Taeyang protect me from the shadows?" The throne room went absolutely silent. Every conversation stopped. Every Velrosian turned to look at the small prince. And Queen Nari, the powerful ruler who had led her people for 300 years, did something Taeyang had never seen before. She flickered. Her entire body lost its solid appearance for just a moment, becoming translucent and weak. For a Velrosian, this was like a human fainting. It showed complete loss of control. The queen recovered quickly, but the damage was done. Every noble in the room had seen it. They began talking in urgent whispers, their crystal bodies flashing with alarmed colors. "Huan," the queen said, her voice shaking slightly. "Go with Ambassador Kira, now." A tall Velrosian woman, her crystal body a soft green color, quickly moved forward. She took Prince Huan by the hand and led him out of the throne room. The boy looked confused and scared. He looked back at Taeyang, who nodded to him reassuringly. "Clear the room," Queen Nari commanded. Her voice was steady now, but Taeyang could see she was struggling to maintain control. "Everyone leave, now." The nobles filed out quickly. They were afraid. Taeyang had been on this world for 6 months, and he had never seen Velrosians show fear so openly. Something was very wrong. When the room was empty except for a few guards, the queen spoke to her communication device. "Send for Commander Borahan and Dr. Yuna Park immediately. Code level red. Code red." That meant extreme danger. Taeyang had only heard that code used once before, during a terrorist attack on the trade district. He moved closer to the throne, his hand on his weapon. "Your Majesty," he said carefully. "What is happening?" Queen Nari looked at him. Her eyes, usually so confident and powerful, were filled with an emotion Taeyang had never expected to see there. "Terror. Human," she said quietly. "You asked your people to protect my son, to protect all of us. I did not think we would need protection from this. I prayed we would never need protection from this again." "From what, Your Majesty?" The Queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "From the shadows." Within 20 minutes, Commander Borahan arrived. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had led Earth security forces through the First Contact War. Behind her came Dr. Yuna Park, carrying her portable computer and looking worried. Ambassador Kira returned as well, without the prince. "He is in the secure chambers," she reported. 4 guards are with him. "Not enough," the Queen said. She looked at the 3 humans. "I need to tell you something. Something that was kept secret for 1,000 years. Something we hoped would stay buried in history." She stood up from her throne, even afraid she was impressive. "Long ago, before humans left their planet, before you knew other species existed, this galaxy was terrorized by creatures we called the Shadow Speakers. They were assassins, killers. They could move between dimensions, existing partly in this world and partly in another place we could not reach." Commander Bora frowned. "Why have we never heard of this?" "Because speaking of them was forbidden," Ambassador Kira said. "Speaking of them, thinking of them too much could attract their attention. They fed on fear, you see. On knowledge of their existence." Dr. Yuna was typing rapidly on her computer. "If they were so dangerous, how were they defeated?" "They were not defeated," the Queen said. "They simply stopped attacking one day, disappeared. We thought they were gone forever." "But Prince Huan asked about shadows," Taeyang said. "How does that mean they are back?" The Queen looked at him with sad eyes. "Because my son has been having dreams, nightmares about shadows that move without light. And young Velrosian royalty human have a gift. They can sense danger before it arrives. My son has been trying to warn us, and we did not listen." The room fell silent. Taeyang felt cold despite the warm temperature. He thought about the feeling in the garden, the sense of being watched, the shadows that seemed just a little too dark. "We need to prepare," Commander Bora said. "What can you tell us about these shadow speakers? How do we fight them?" Queen Nari shook her head slowly. "That is the terrible part. We never learned how to fight them. No weapon worked. No defense held. They killed who they wanted when they wanted. 3 empires fell trying to stop them. But humans are different," Ambassador Kira said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "Humans are less advanced, less sophisticated. Maybe that matters." "Are you saying our primitive nature might help?" Taeyang asked. "Yes," Kira said, "because shadow speakers feed on understanding, on the fear that comes from knowing what they truly are. If humans do not fully comprehend them, cannot fully understand the horror of their existence, then maybe we can fight what we do not understand," Commander Bora finished. The Queen looked at the 3 humans. "Will you protect my son? Will you protect us all? Even though you do not know if you can win?" Taeyang thought of the small prince asking his innocent question. He thought of the promise he had made. Always. "Yes," he said simply. "We will protect him." Commander Bora nodded. "We will need all the information you have. Every old record. Every story. Everything. You will have it," the Queen promised. Dr. Yuna looked up from her computer, her face pale. "Commander, I have been scanning the palace security systems. There have been temperature drops in 17 different locations over the past week. Small ones. Easy to miss, but all in areas near the prince." Everyone in the room understood what that meant. The shadow speakers were not coming. They were already here. They had been watching, waiting. And now, because of an innocent question, everyone knew it. The hunt was about to begin. The archive room was deep beneath the Crystal Palace. It smelled old, which was strange for a place filled with technology. Dr. Yuna worked at a large table covered with holographic displays. Ancient Velrosian text floated in the air around her, glowing softly in the dim light. Ambassador Kira stood beside her, translating the oldest documents. Some of these records were written in languages that no longer existed, languages from empires that fell 1,000 years ago. This one describes an attack on the Meridian colony, Kira said, pointing to a text that pulsed red. 7,000 people died in one night. The shadow speakers came through the walls, through locked doors. Security systems detected nothing until people started dying. Yuna wrote notes rapidly. What stopped them? Nothing stopped them. They left when they were finished. That was how it always happened. They would attack, kill who they wanted, then disappear. There must be a pattern, Yuna muttered. Everything has a pattern. She pulled up another document. This one showed a map of the galaxy from long ago. Red marks dotted various worlds. These are all the recorded attacks? Yes, 47 worlds. Millions dead. Yuna studied the map carefully. Wait, look at this. The attacks all happened on advanced worlds. Worlds with high technology. Complex civilizations. Yes, shadow speakers only targeted the strongest empires. But what about primitive worlds? Worlds without advanced technology? Yuna pointed to several planets that were marked differently on the map. These worlds existed during the same time period. Some even had basic civilizations, but no attacks. Kira leaned closer to the display. Her crystal body glowed brighter as she realized what Yuna was suggesting. You think the shadow speakers avoided primitive species? Yes, or maybe they could not sense them, could not feed on them. Yuna pulled up more files. Tell me about how the shadow speakers worked. How did they choose targets? Kira was silent for a moment. They fed on fear, but not simple fear, deep fear, the kind that comes from understanding what they were. From knowing you were helpless against something that existed in dimensions you could not reach. So the more you understood them, the more they could hurt you, Yuna said slowly. Yes, that is why speaking of them was forbidden. Why records were sealed. Why we tried to forget. Yuna stood up suddenly. Then humans might have an advantage. We barely understand our own dimension, let alone others. We cannot fully comprehend what the shadow speakers are, so maybe we cannot feel the full weight of terror they cause. Above them in the palace guard station, Tai Yang was having a different conversation. 3 other human security officers stood with him around a tactical display. They were all veterans, all survivors of dangerous situations. I felt it too, said Officer Minho, a stocky man with scars on his face. 3 days ago, I was patrolling the west corridor. The temperature dropped, just for a second, and I felt watched. Same here, added Officer Jaewon, a young woman with sharp eyes. 5 days ago, near the prince's study, all my instincts screamed danger, but my scanner showed nothing. I reported it as a false alarm. The third officer, an older man named Sung Ho, nodded grimly. I have been feeling it for a week. I thought I was getting paranoid. But if we all felt it, then it is real, Tai Yang finished. The Velrosians cannot sense them. Their instruments cannot detect them. But we can feel them. How is that possible? Minho asked. We are less advanced than the Velrosians. Our technology is primitive compared to theirs. Taeyang thought about it. Maybe that is exactly why. Our brains evolved to sense predators, real physical predators. We have instincts that their advanced minds have lost, fear responses that do not depend on understanding. Commander Bora entered the room. She looked tired. I have been speaking with the Queen. The situation is worse than we thought. How much worse? Taeyang asked. Prince Huan has been having nightmares for 3 weeks. He told his tutors that shadows were following him. They thought it was just a child's imagination. But yesterday he drew a picture during his lessons. She held up a tablet showing a child's drawing. The drawing showed a figure, not quite human, not quite anything. It was made of darkness and sharp angles that hurt to look at, and around it written in a child's handwriting were the words, "They are waiting." This is what he sees in his dreams, Bora said quietly. Sung Ho stared at the drawing. His face went pale. I have seen that shape, in the corner of my eye. 3 times in the past week. They are already here, Jaewon whispered. They have been watching us, learning about us. Then we need to change our approach, Bora said firmly. Stop trying to detect them with technology. Start trusting our instincts. If one of you feels something is wrong, act on it. Do not wait for confirmation. Taeyang nodded. We need to set up a different kind of security system. One based on human perception. Overlapping patrols. Constant communication. If one of us feels danger, we all respond. That goes against all standard security protocols, Minho pointed out. Standard protocols will not work against enemies from other dimensions, Bora replied. We need to adapt. Use what makes us different. Our unpredictability. Our instincts, our ability to fight things we do not understand. Dr. Yuna arrived then, Ambassador Kira with her. Yuna carried her computer and several ancient data crystals. She looked excited despite the grim situation. I found something, she announced. A pattern in how shadow speakers attacked. They always stalked their victims first. Watched them. Learned their routines. It could take days or weeks. Why? Taeyang asked. Because they feed on fear. The stalking creates fear. Makes victims paranoid. Afraid. By the time the shadow speakers attack, their victims are already weakened by terror. Kira added, there is more. According to the oldest records, shadow speakers can be disrupted by certain frequencies, sound and light that exists across dimensional boundaries. What kind of frequencies? Bora asked. The records are not clear, but there are mentions of primitive weapons being more effective than advanced ones. Simple vibrations. Fire. Things that create interference across multiple dimensions without sophisticated targeting. Taeyang felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. So our primitive weapons might actually work better than Velrosian technology. Possibly. We need to test this theory. Commander Bora made a decision. Yuna, you and Kira continue researching. Find everything you can about what disrupts them. Taeyang, I want you to design a new security protocol. Use human instincts as the primary detection method. Equipment as backup only. What about the prince? Taeyang asked. He stays in the secure chambers for now, but I want a human guard with him at all times. Someone who can sense danger. Bora looked at Taeyang. You are the one he trusts. It should be you. Taeyang nodded. I will not let him be harmed. None of us will, Minho said. The other officers agreed. Ambassador Kira looked at the four humans. You truly believe you can fight them? Creatures that destroyed empires. We do not know if we can win, Taeyang admitted. But we know we will try. That is what humans do. We face impossible odds and fight anyway. Because you are too ignorant to know better? Kira asked. There was no insult in her voice. Just genuine curiosity. Taeyang smiled grimly. Maybe. Or maybe we are just too stubborn to quit. Queen Nari arrived at that moment. Her crystal form was steady now, back to its normal, brilliant blue. But her eyes showed her fear. Have you learned anything useful? Yes, Your Majesty, Yuna said. The shadow speakers have weaknesses. We just need to find them. How long do we have? Unknown. Based on historical patterns, they could attack any time in the next few days. Or they might wait weeks longer. The Queen looked at Commander Bora. I am trusting you with my son's life, with all our lives. Earth security said humans make the best protectors in the galaxy. I hope that is true. Bora met her gaze steadily. We will not fail you, Your Majesty. Humans do not abandon those under our protection. Even against an enemy you do not understand, especially against enemies we do not understand, Bora replied. That is when we are most dangerous. Later that night, Taeyang stood guard outside Prince Huan's chambers. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. The usual sounds of the palace seemed muffled, distant. He checked his equipment. Thermal scanner showed normal temperatures. Motion detector showed nothing. Air pressure was stable, but every instinct he had was screaming danger. He activated his communication device. Taeyang to all units. I am feeling it. Something is here. Minho responded immediately. Confirmed. North corridor. Temperature normal, but I feel watched. Jaewon's voice came next. East wing. Same feeling. Nothing on scanners. Commander Bora's voice was calm but urgent. All units converge on Prince's chambers. Move now. Trust your instincts over your equipment. Taeyang drew his weapon. It was a simple projectile gun, primitive by Velrosian standards. But right now he trusted it more than any energy weapon. He positioned himself directly in front of the Prince's door. The lights in the hallway flickered. Just once, but it was enough. They were coming. The shadow speakers had finished watching. Now they would attack, and humanity would face its first real test in protecting the galaxy from an ancient evil. The hunt was about to become a battle. The human security team spent 2 full days preparing. They did not sleep much. None of them could, knowing what was coming. Taeyang stood in the equipment room, looking at the weapons and tools they were gathering. This looks like a museum display, Officer Minho said, holding up an old thermal imaging device. This equipment is 20 years old, which is why it might work, Taeyang replied. The Velrosians rely on quantum sensors, energy detection. dimensional scanning. All very advanced, all useless against the shadow speakers. J1 was setting up acoustic monitors along the walls. These detect sound vibrations. Simple physics. If the shadow speakers move through this space, they will disturb the air. Even if we cannot see them, these should pick up something. What about these? Sung-ho pointed to several canisters lined up on a table. Thermite charges, Tae-yang said. Dr. Yuna thinks fire might disrupt them. Fire exists across multiple wavelengths. It creates heat, light, and chemical reactions all at once. Hard to avoid even if you are partially in another dimension. Commander Bora entered the room. She looked at their preparations and nodded approvingly. Good, primitive tools. Simple methods. This is what we are good at. The Velrosian nobles are not happy, she continued. They think we are insulting them by using such basic equipment. Some are saying we are not taking the threat seriously. Let them complain, Minho said. Their advanced weapons did not save them 1,000 years ago. The Queen understands, Bora said. That is what matters. She has given us complete authority over palace security. Every Velrosian guard now answers to us. Dr. Yuna arrived, looking exhausted. She had spent the past 2 days in the archives with Ambassador Kira. I have more information. Some good, some bad. Give us the bad first, Tae-yang said. Shadow speakers can phase through physical barriers. Walls mean nothing to them. Locked doors provide no protection. They exist partially outside our reality, so normal defenses do not work. We already knew that, Bora said. What is the good news? They cannot stay in our dimension indefinitely. It takes energy for them to manifest here. The longer they stay, the weaker they become. That is why they strike quickly and leave. So if we can force them to stay longer, we have a chance, Jaewon said. Exactly. And there is more. I found records of a failed attack. Only one in all the historical documents. The shadow speakers tried to assassinate a ruler on the planet Corvus. They failed. How? Everyone asked at once. The ruler was protected by his personal guards. They were from a primitive species barely space-capable. They fought with simple weapons, blades, fire, and they refused to feel fear. The record says they fought like they had nothing to lose. Tae-yang felt something cold settle in his stomach. What happened to those guards? They all died, but their ruler survived. The shadow speakers retreated after killing the guards. The effort cost them too much energy. The room was silent. Everyone understood what that meant. They might be able to protect Prince Huan, but it would cost them their lives. Does everyone still want to do this? Bora asked quietly. No one will blame you if you choose to step back. This is not a normal assignment, Minho spoke first. I am not leaving. The kid trusts us. Same here, Jaewon said. We promised to protect him. Sung-ho nodded. I have been in worse situations. At least this time we know what we are facing. Tae-yang looked at his team. Then we prepare for the worst. We make them pay for every second they spend in our reality. We make this fight so difficult, so exhausting, that they have no choice but to retreat. Later that day, Tae-yang went to see Prince Huan. The boy was in his secure chambers, surrounded by Velrosian guards. But when he saw Tae-yang, his crystal face brightened. Tae-yang! You came to visit me. Of course, Your Highness. How are you feeling? The prince's light dimmed a little. Scared. I keep seeing them in my dreams. The shadow things, they are getting closer. Tae-yang sat down beside him. Do you remember what I promised you in the garden? You said you would protect me from the shadows. That is right. And I will keep that promise. My team and I are setting up special defenses. We are using human methods. Huan looked curious. Human methods? Are they different from Velrosian methods? Very different. We use old technology, simple weapons, but most importantly, we use something your people have forgotten. What is that? Instinct. The feeling in your gut that tells you when danger is near. Your people are so advanced, so logical, that you ignore those feelings. Humans still listen to them. The prince thought about this. Is that how you knew? In the garden? When I asked about the shadows. Yes, I felt something was wrong before you even asked the question. My instincts were warning me. I wish I had human instincts, Huan said quietly. Then I would not be so afraid. Tae-yang shook his head. Being afraid is not weakness. Fear is information. It tells you that danger is real. The important thing is what you do with that fear. What should I do with it? Use it, let it make you careful. Let it make you smart, but never let it make you freeze. That is what the shadow speakers want. They want you paralyzed by terror. Juan's light grew a little brighter. You are very wise, Taeyang. For a human, Taeyang smiled. Thank you, Your Highness. That is a great compliment. Queen Nari entered the chamber then. She looked better than she had the day before. More controlled. But Taeyang could still see the fear in her eyes. Mother. Juan ran to her. The queen held her son close. I am here, little one. Everything will be all right. She looked at Taeyang over her son's head. Can I speak with you? They moved to the side of the room. The queen spoke softly. My advisors want me to evacuate Juan, send him to a hidden location. They say it is the only way to keep him safe. Will you do it? Taeyang asked. No. The shadow speakers will find him no matter where he goes. Running will only delay the inevitable, and it will make me look weak. My enemies will use that weakness to take my throne. So you will let him stay here? Yes, because you and your team are here. Because humans have proven they can face the impossible. Because I believe you will protect him even if it costs you everything. Taeyang met her eyes. We will, Your Majesty. That is what humans do. The queen touched his arm gently. It was a gesture of respect among Velrosians. I am sorry. Sorry that we must ask this of you. Sorry that your species must risk so much for ours. We chose this job, Taeyang said. When humans came to the stars, we were weak, poor. We had nothing to offer except our willingness to fight, to protect. That became our value to the galaxy. We are proud of it. Still, the price may be too high. We will decide that, Your Majesty. Not you, not the shadow speakers, us. That night, the human team finished their preparations. They had transformed the area around Prince Juan's chambers into a trap. Acoustic sensors covered every wall. Thermal monitors watched every corner. Simple motion detectors created overlapping fields of detection and fire. They had positioned thermite charges throughout the corridors. If the shadow speakers came, they would walk into an inferno. Dr. Yuna ran final tests on the equipment. This is good work. You have created multiple layers of detection. Even if they avoid one system, they will trigger another. Will it be enough? Jae-won asked. I do not know, Yuna admitted. No one has successfully defended against the shadow speakers using these methods. But no one has tried human methods before either. Commander Bora gathered the team together. Listen carefully. When they come, and they will come, remember your training. Trust your instincts over your equipment. Fight together. Protect each other. And most importantly, make them pay for every inch they advance. What if we fail? Sung-ho asked. Then we fail fighting, Bora said simply. That is the human way. They took their positions. Taeyang stood directly outside Prince Juan's door. Minho covered the north corridor. Jae-won watched the east wing. Sung-ho monitored the western approach. Commander Bora positioned herself at the central hub, ready to support any position that needed help. Ambassador Kira and Dr. Yuna were in the control room, watching all the sensors and monitors. They would provide intelligence and coordination. The hours passed slowly. Midnight came and went, then 1 in the morning, 2, 3. The palace grew quieter as the night deepened. At 3:47, Taeyang felt it. A coldness that had nothing to do with temperature. A presence that made every hair on his body stand up. His hand moved to his weapon. Contact, he whispered into his communicator. I feel them. They are here. Almost immediately, the others confirmed. Minho felt it in the north corridor. Jae-won sensed them in the east wing. Sung-ho reported the same from the west. They are surrounding us, Bora said calmly. Everyone stay alert. Report any changes. The temperature began to drop. Not everywhere at once, but in specific spots. 5 degrees, 10, 15. Taeyang could see his breath in the air now. Dr. Yuna's voice came through the communicator. Acoustic sensors are picking up distortions. Sound waves bending around something. Multiple contacts. At least 5 of them. 5 shadow speakers, Commander Bora said. This is a serious attack. Everyone prepare for combat. The lights began to flicker. Not all at once, but in waves, as if something was passing through them. Taeyang tightened his grip on his weapon. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. This was it. The moment they had been preparing for. The shadow speakers were done watching. Now they would attack, and humanity would show them why humans had become the gay. The hallway went dark, not the normal darkness of night, but something deeper, something wrong. The lights were still on, but their glow seemed to be absorbed by the shadows themselves. Taeyang could barely see 5 feet in front of him. His breath came out in white clouds now. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees in 30 seconds. Ice was forming on the walls. This was not natural cold. This was the cold of something that did not belong in this dimension. They are manifesting, Dr. Yuna's voice said through his earpiece. 3 contacts in your corridor, Taeyang. Moving toward you. Taeyang closed his eyes. He had trained for this. Fighting blind, trusting his other senses. He listened. Beneath the hum of the palace systems, beneath his own breathing, he heard something else, a sound like wind through a crack in a wall, a whisper that was not quite words. He opened his eyes and saw them. 3 shapes stood in the corridor. They were not solid. Not exactly. They seemed to flicker between being there and not being there. Their bodies were made of darkness that moved wrong, flowing in directions that should not exist. They had forms like humans but stretched and twisted, too tall, too thin, with too many joints in their arms and legs and their faces. They had no faces, just smooth darkness where features should be. Looking at them made Taeyang's head hurt. His brain could not fully process what it was seeing. One of them moved forward. It did not walk. It flowed like smoke pushed by wind. In its hand it held something that might have been a blade. The weapon seemed to exist in multiple places at once, leaving trails of darkness in the air. Taeyang raised his gun and fired. The sound was deafening in the quiet corridor. The bullet hit the shadow speaker's center mass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature flickered, becoming more solid. It stumbled backward. It worked, he shouted into his communicator. Physical weapons work. Shoot them. Gunfire erupted from multiple corridors. The other human guards were engaging their own targets. The shadow speakers had attacked all positions at once, trying to overwhelm them with numbers, but the humans were ready. Taeyang fired again. And again. Each bullet forced the shadow speaker to become more solid, more present in this dimension. It was costing them energy to stay here, energy to maintain their form while being attacked. The second shadow speaker moved with impossible speed. One moment it was 10 feet away. The next moment it was right in front of Taeyang, its dark blade swinging toward his throat. He ducked. The blade passed over his head so close he felt it disturb the air, or something like air. The space where the blade passed felt wrong, like reality itself was being cut. Taeyang rolled to the side and came up firing. His bullet struck the shadow speaker in what might have been its chest. The creature made a sound. Not a scream. Something worse. A noise that existed in frequencies humans should not be able to hear. Commander Bora's voice came through the communicator. Activating fire protocol. Everyone clear your corridors. 3, 2, 1, now! Taeyang threw himself backward through the door to Prince Huan's chambers. He slammed it shut just as the thermite charges detonated. The corridor outside became an inferno. White-hot fire erupted from charges placed along the walls and ceiling. The temperature went from freezing to scorching in an instant. The thermite burned at over 4,000 degrees, hot enough to melt steel. Through the door, Taeyang heard the shadow speaker's inhuman sounds intensify. The fire was hurting them, forcing them to use even more energy to protect themselves. Prince Huan stood in the center of his chambers, his crystal body flickering with fear. What is happening? We are fighting them, Taeyang said. He checked his ammunition. Half empty. Stay behind me. The door began to frost over. Despite the fire outside, ice was forming on the metal. The shadow speakers were trying to force their way in. They are coming through the walls, Huan cried. Taeyang spun around. The prince was right. Darkness was seeping through the solid wall like water through cloth. 2 shadow speakers were phasing directly through the physical barrier. He did not hesitate. He fired at the emerging shapes, forcing them to become solid. They could not phase through walls while being shot. The physics of their existence did not allow it. Commander Bora burst through a side door, followed by Officer Jaewon. We pushed them back in the east wing, Bora said. But they are regrouping. There are too many, Jaewon said. She was bleeding from a cut on her arm. I counted 7 of them. 7 shadow speakers, Bora said grimly. This is a full assassination squad. They really want him dead. One of the shadow speakers fully manifested in the room. It stood 8 feet tall now, its darkness seeming to drink in the light around it. In its hand, the dimensional blade pulsed with dark energy. It spoke. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, echoing in frequencies that made Taeyang's teeth ache. Give us the child. You cannot win. You are lesser beings. Primitives. Lesser, Commander Bora said. She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Maybe, but we are also too stupid to know when to quit. She threw a thermite grenade. The shadow speaker tried to phase away, but Jaewon was already firing at it, forcing it to stay solid. The grenade exploded in brilliant white fire. The creature's scream was terrible. It stumbled backward, its form flickering rapidly between solid and ethereal. The fire clung to it somehow, burning across dimensional boundaries. More shadow speakers poured into the room. 6 of them now surrounding the humans and the prince. Dr. Yuna's voice came through the communicator, urgent and afraid. They are concentrating their forces. All 7 are in the prince's chambers. Good, Taeyang said. Then we have them all in one place. He looked at Commander Bora. Protocol persistence? Bora nodded. Protocol persistence. Make them pay for every second. They formed a circle around Prince Huan, facing outward. 3 humans against 7-dimensional assassins. The odds were impossible. But humans had faced impossible odds before. The shadow speakers attacked as one. They moved like liquid darkness, their blades cutting through the air with sounds like tearing fabric. But the humans moved too. Taeyang fought like he had been trained, not trying to predict where the enemy would be, but feeling it. His instincts guided him: duck, roll, fire, move, never stay in one place. Never give them a solid target. One of the shadow speaker's blades caught him on the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. Not normal pain. This was pain that existed in places he did not know he had. Pain that reached into dimensions beyond the physical. He screamed but did not stop fighting. He fired point blank into the shadow speaker's face. The creature reeled backward, its form becoming unstable. Jaewon was fighting 2 at once, her movements precise and economical. Every shot counted. Every movement had purpose. She was bleeding from multiple wounds, but she did not slow down. Commander Bora fought with brutal efficiency. She used thermite charges like grenades, throwing them at the shadow speakers and forcing them to waste energy defending themselves. Each explosion made them weaker, more solid, more vulnerable. They are weakening, Dr. Yuna shouted through the communicator. The energy readings are dropping. Keep fighting! But the humans were weakening too. Taeyang had lost count of how many times he had been cut. His blood was mixing with the melted ice on the floor. His arms felt heavy. His vision was starting to blur. He could not keep this up much longer. None of them could. Then Officer Minho burst into the room with Sung-ho right behind him. They had fought their way through from the other corridors. Both were wounded, but both were still fighting. Need some help? Minho said, firing at the nearest shadow speaker. 5 humans now, fighting together, covering each other, moving as one unit. The shadow speakers had never faced anything like this. They were used to victims who froze in terror, who understood the hopelessness of fighting dimensional beings. Humans did not care about hopeless. Humans cared about the promise they had made to protect a child. One of the shadow speakers fell. Its form collapsed inward, becoming a puddle of darkness that evaporated like smoke. The effort of staying solid, of fighting, had exhausted it completely. Then a second one fell. And a third. The remaining 4 shadow speakers stopped attacking. For the first time, they seemed uncertain. They had come to kill one small prince. Instead, they had found humans who would not break, who would not run, who fought with a ferocity that defied logic. The largest shadow speaker, the one who had spoken before, looked at Taeyang. Its voice came again, that impossible sound that existed in too many frequencies. Interesting. You are not what we expected, yeah? Taeyang said, breathing hard. We get that a lot. We will study you, learn your nature, and we will return. Commander Bora stepped forward despite her wounds. Then we will be ready. And next time we will be even more prepared. The shadow speakers began to fade. Not quickly, but deliberately. They were retreating. For the first time in recorded history, shadow speakers were retreating from a lesser species. Before they disappeared completely, the large one spoke one last time. You have made yourselves known to us humans. That was a mistake. No, Taeyang said. You made the mistake. You threatened someone under our protection. Then they were gone. The temperature began to rise. The darkness lifted. The lights grew bright again. For a long moment, no one moved. The medical bay of the Crystal Palace was filled with strange equipment. Machines that looked like sculptures of light. devices that hummed with energy Taiyang could not see. The Velrosian doctors worked quickly, treating the wounded humans with a mixture of advanced medicine and something close to wonder. "Your wounds are unusual," one of the doctors said. She was examining Taiyang's shoulder where the Shadow Speaker's blade had cut him. "The damage exists in multiple dimensions. Our equipment can detect it, but we cannot fully heal it." "Will it heal on its own?" Taiyang asked. "Eventually. Your body seems to be fighting the dimensional intrusion naturally. Very slowly, but it is working. I have never seen anything like it." Dr. Yuna entered the medical bay. She looked exhausted but excited. "Can I examine the wound?" "I have a theory." The Velrosian doctor stepped aside. Yuna pulled out her portable scanner and ran it over Taiyang's shoulder. She studied the readings carefully. "Just as I thought. Your pain receptors are detecting the dimensional intrusion. That is why it hurts so much. Your nervous system is treating it like a foreign invader." "Is that good or bad?" Taiyang asked. "Good. It means humans can sense dimensional threats on a biological level. Velrosians cannot. Their bodies do not register dimensional intrusions as danger. That is why shadow speakers were so effective against advanced species." Ambassador Kira stood nearby watching. "You are saying human biology is naturally resistant to dimensional attacks?" "Not resistant, but aware. Humans evolved to fight physical threats, predators, disease, other humans. Your nervous systems are designed to detect danger in very basic primitive ways. That primitive detection system can sense things that advanced species have lost the ability to perceive." In the next bed, Officer J1 was being treated for her cuts. She listened to the conversation carefully. "So we are like guard dogs? We can smell danger that others cannot." "Exactly," Yuna said. "You are guard dogs. The galaxy's guard dogs." And the shadow speakers learned that guard dogs bite. Commander Bora walked in then. Her wounds had been treated, but she moved carefully. "I have been speaking with Queen Nari. She wants to address the Galactic Council about what happened here." "The Galactic Council?" Kira looked surprised. "She's going public with this?" "Yes, she believes the other empires need to know the shadow speakers have returned, and that humans can fight them." Taiyang sat up, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "What does that mean for us?" "It means humanity is about to become very important," Bora said. "Every empire in the galaxy will want human protection." "We will be in high demand. Is that good?" Minho asked from his bed. "For Earth, yes. We will gain status, resources, technology. We will no longer be the newest, weakest species. We will be the species that fights the unfightable." "But," Taeyang heard the uncertainty in Bora's voice, "but it also means we will be targets. The shadow speakers now see humans as threats. They will study us, test us, try to find our weaknesses. We have made powerful enemies." Prince Juan entered the medical bay then, followed by his mother. The boy ran to Taeyang's bed immediately. "Are you okay?" "Mother said your wounds are serious." Taeyang smiled. "I am fine, Your Highness. Just a little sore. You saved me. All of you saved me." The prince looked at each of the wounded humans. "I will never forget it." Queen Nari approached the beds. "I want to offer you something. All of you. A place in Velrosian society. You would be honored as nobles. Given land, wealth, whatever you desire." The humans looked at each other. Taeyang spoke for all of them. "That is very generous, Your Majesty. But we are not nobility. We are protectors. It is what we do." "Then let me offer you a different honor. Come with me to the Galactic Council. Show them what humanity can do. Help me convince the other empires to accept human protection." Commander Bora nodded. "We accept." It is time the galaxy understood what humans are capable of. 3 days later, Taeyang stood in the Galactic Council chambers. The room was enormous, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of worlds. The ceiling was made of transparent crystal, showing the stars beyond. Beings of every shape and size filled the seats around him. He felt small, insignificant. These were the rulers of empires that had existed for thousands of years. Civilizations that had mastered sciences humans barely understood, and he was just a soldier from Earth, a world that had only been in space for a few decades. But he stood tall, because he had done something none of these ancient empires could do. He had fought the shadow speakers and survived. Queen Nari stepped forward to address the council. Her voice was amplified, carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you with grave news. The shadow speakers have returned." The chamber erupted in noise. Voices raised in shock, fear, and disbelief. The council leader, A being made of flowing energy called for order. "This is impossible," one representative said. "The shadow speakers were destroyed, erased from existence." "They were not," Queen Nari said. "They disappeared. And now they have returned. 7 of them attacked my palace 3 days ago. They came for my son." "Is your son alive?" the council leader asked. "Yes, thanks to these humans." She gestured to Tai Yang and his team. "They fought the shadow speakers, and they won." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every consciousness turned to look at the 5 humans standing before them. "Impossible," another representative said. "Humans are a primitive species. They have barely left their home system. How could they defeat shadow speakers?" Queen Nari smiled. "Because they are primitive. Because they do not fully understand what they are fighting. Because they have instincts we have lost. And because they refuse to give up no matter the odds." The council leader focused on Tai Yang. The energy being's voice was like wind through empty spaces. "Human, tell us how you defeated them." Tai Yang stepped forward. He was nervous. His shoulder still ached from the dimensional wound. But he spoke clearly. "We use simple methods. Basic weapons, fire, bullets, sound. Things that exist across multiple dimensions without sophisticated targeting. And we trusted our instincts over our equipment." "But why did this work? Why did advanced weapons fail?" Dr. Yuna spoke up. "Because shadow speakers feed on understanding. On the fear that comes from knowing what they are. Advanced species can comprehend the horror of dimensional beings. That comprehension paralyzes them. Humans cannot fully understand the shadow speakers, so we cannot feel the full weight of terror they create." "You are saying ignorance is a weapon?" another representative asked. "Yes," Yuna said simply. "Against enemies like the shadow speakers, ignorance is armor." Ambassador Kira added, "I have studied the historical records. Every successful defense against shadow speakers was by primitive species. Beings who did not understand dimensional physics. The pattern is clear. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to hire human protection immediately. Others were skeptical. A few were insulted that primitive humans could succeed where they had failed. Finally, the council leader spoke. "We will grant humanity protector status. This is a designation not given lightly. It means humans will be recognized as guardians throughout the galaxy. They will have the right to bear arms on any world, to provide security to any who request it. But," the leader continued, "this status comes with responsibilities. If shadow speakers attack, humans must respond. If dimensional threats arise, humans must face them. Are you willing to accept this burden?" Commander Bora stepped forward. "We are. It is what we have been doing since we joined the galactic community. Protecting those who need protection. We will continue to do so." "Then it is decided. Humanity is granted protector status. May you serve the galaxy well." After the council session, Taeyang found Prince Huan waiting outside the chamber. The boy had insisted on coming, even though children were not usually allowed in council meetings. "Did they accept you?" Huan asked eagerly. "Yes, humans are now officially the galaxy's protectors." The prince hugged him tightly. "Good, because I want you to stay. I want you to be my protector forever." Taeyang knelt down to look the boy in the eyes. "I cannot stay forever, Your Highness. I have duties on other worlds, other people who need protection. But you will come back?" "Yes, I will come back. I promise." Queen Nari approached them. "He has made many promises to you, my son, and he has kept them all. I believe he will keep this one too." She turned to Taeyang. "Thank you, not just for saving my son, but for showing us something we had forgotten. That courage is not about being fearless. It is about fighting despite fear." "You are welcome, Your Majesty. It is what humans do." That night, the human team gathered in their quarters. They were leaving in the morning, heading to Earth for debriefing and medical treatment. Then they would be assigned to other posts across the galaxy. "We did it," Jaewon said. "We actually did it. We fought dimensional assassins and lived." "More than that," Minho said. "We changed how the galaxy sees humanity. We are not just workers anymore. Not just soldiers. We are protectors." Sung-Ho raised his glass. "To humanity." The galaxy's guard dogs, they all drank. But Taeyang could not fully celebrate. He kept thinking about the shadow speaker's final words. "We will study you. We will return." Commander Bora noticed his mood. "You are worried about them coming back?" "Yes, they will add 6 months past. 6 months of change for humanity and the galaxy." Taeyang stood in the new Human Protection Academy on Earth. watching recruits train, young men and women from dozens of countries learning how to fight enemies that most species could not even detect. Again, Commander Bora shouted at a group struggling with close combat training. Shadow speakers move fast. You need to be faster. Trust your instincts, not your eyes. The academy had been built quickly, funded by grateful alien empires. Requests for human protection had flooded in after the Galactic Council's announcement. Every major empire wanted human guards. Every royal family wanted human security teams. Dr. Yuna approached Tai Yang. She had been promoted to head of xenobiology research. How are the new recruits? Good, eager. But they do not understand yet. Not really. You cannot understand what shadow speakers are like until you face them. We have been receiving reports, Yuna said quietly. Small incidents. Temperature drops. Strange sounds. Feelings of being watched. 7 different worlds in the past 3 months. They are testing us, Taeyang said. Learning how we respond. Studying our defenses. Yes, and I think they are getting ready for something bigger. A coordinated attack, maybe. They want to prove that our victory was luck. A communication device on Taeyang's belt beeped. He checked the message and his face went pale. It is from Queen Nari. She is requesting emergency assistance. Shadow speakers have been spotted near the palace again. How many? Yuna asked. She does not know. But she says Prince Huan is having the nightmares again. Worse than before? Taeyang did not hesitate. He had made a promise to that boy. He would keep it. Within hours, he was on a ship heading to Velrosia. Minho, Jaewon, and Sungho volunteered to go with him. Commander Bora stayed behind to manage the academy, but she sent a squad of newly trained protectors as backup. When they arrived at the Crystal Palace, Taeyang could feel it immediately. That cold presence, that sense of being watched. The shadow speakers were here, and there were many of them. Prince Huan ran to meet them. The boy had grown in 6 months, his crystal body larger and brighter. But his eyes showed fear. They are everywhere, Taeyang. I can feel them all around the palace. They are not hiding anymore. How long have you been feeling this? 2 weeks. It gets stronger every night. Queen Nari looked exhausted. My advisors want me to evacuate, to run and hide. But I will not. You proved that shadow speakers can be fought. I believe you can do it again. Ambassador Kira joined them. I have been researching. The shadow speakers are changing their tactics. They are no longer stalking in secret. They are announcing their presence, making sure we know they are coming. Why? Jaewon asked. Why warn us? To create fear, Dr. Yuna said. She had come on the ship with them. They feed on it, remember? By letting us know they are coming, they make us afraid. Anxious, it weakens us. Then we do not give them fear, Taeyang said. We give them a fight. They spent the day preparing. But this time was different. They had more resources, better equipment, and most importantly, they had knowledge. They knew how shadow speakers moved, how they attacked, what hurt them. Taeyang designed a new defense, not just protecting one room, but the entire section of the palace where the prince lived. Multiple layers of detection, overlapping fields of fire, retreat routes if they were overwhelmed. The new human protectors helped set up the defenses. They were nervous but determined. For them, this was their first real test. Night fell. The palace grew quiet. Taeyang stood at his post, feeling the familiar cold presence growing stronger. They were coming. He could sense it. At midnight exactly, every light in the palace went dark. Not flickering this time. Complete darkness. Taeyang activated his thermal vision, but it showed nothing. The shadow speakers had learned. They were suppressing even thermal radiation now. Contact! Minho's voice came through the communicator. North corridor. Multiple targets. I count at least 10. 10. Jaewon sounded shocked. Last time there were only 7. They brought reinforcements, Taeyang said. Everyone to defensive positions. Protect the prince at all costs. The shadow speakers attacked from multiple directions at once. But this time the humans were ready. Acoustic sensors tracked their movement. Motion detectors created overlapping coverage. And human instinct filled in the gaps. Gunfire erupted throughout the palace. The newly trained protectors fought with determination, following their training. Some were wounded immediately. The dimensional blades were as terrible as Taeyang remembered. But no one broke. No one ran. A massive shadow speaker appeared in front of Taeyang, larger than the others. Its darkness seemed deeper, more solid. It spoke in that terrible multi-frequency voice. "We meet again, human." Taeyang recognized the voice. The leader from the first attack. "You kept your promise. You came back? Yes, and now we have studied you, learned your tactics, understood your weaknesses. You will not win this time. Maybe. But we will make you work for it." The shadow speaker attacked. Its blade moved in patterns that defied physics, cutting through space itself. Taeyang dodged, rolled, fired back. Each bullet forced the creature to become more solid, to use more energy. Around him the battle raged. Humans fighting dimensional beings in corridors of crystal and light. It should have been impossible. But humans had learned that impossible just meant difficult. One of the new protectors fell. Then another. But their sacrifice bought time, bought space, allowed others to regroup and counterattack. Dr. Yuna's voice came through the communicator. "I am detecting something, a pattern in how they move. They are avoiding certain areas of the palace." "What areas?" Taeyang asked, still fighting. "Areas with strong emotional resonance. The Queen's private chambers. Huan's study. Places filled with positive memories. They feed on fear, not other emotions," Taeyang said, understanding. "Positive emotions disrupt them." He activated palace-wide communications. "Everyone, think about why you are here. Think about who you are protecting. Remember the good things. They cannot handle it." It sounded stupid. It sounded like something from a children's story. But Taeyang had learned that sometimes the simple solutions worked best against complex enemies. He thought about Prince Huan, about the boy's innocent questions, about his curiosity and kindness, about the promise he had made to protect him. The shadow speaker in front of him hesitated. Just for a moment. But a moment was enough. Taeyang fired 3 shots into its center. The creature flickered, its form becoming unstable. Throughout the palace, the same thing was happening. The shadow speakers were weakening. Not because of weapons or tactics, but because the humans fighting them were focusing on something other than fear. The lead shadow speaker stepped back. "Clever, but this changes nothing. We will return. Again and again. Until you fall, and we will be here," Taeyang said. "Again and again. Until you give up. You cannot win forever, human. You are mortal. We are eternal. Yes, we are mortal. But that is what makes us dangerous. We know our time is limited, so we fight harder, care more, refuse to waste what little time we have." The shadow speakers began to retreat. They faded into the darkness, their forms dissolving like smoke. The temperature started to rise. The light slowly came back on. Taeyang counted his team. 3 of the new protectors had fallen. 5 more were seriously wounded. But they had won. Again. Prince Huan emerged from his secure chambers. He looked at the wounded humans, at the scorch marks and ice on the walls. "You did it again. You kept your promise again." Taeyang smiled tiredly. "Always," Queen Nari approached slowly. 3 more humans gave their lives for us. How can we ever repay such sacrifice? By remembering them, Taeyang said. By telling their story. By never forgetting that they stood between evil and innocence and they did not move. Minho joined them, holding his wounded side. The new protectors fought well. They will tell others. Training will improve. We will get better at this. Will they come back? The Queen asked. Yes, Taeyang said honestly. They will keep coming.
Keep testing us.
This is not a war that ends with 1 victory or even 10. This is a war of persistence. Then what do? We persist. We keep fighting. We keep protecting. Because that is what we promised to do. And humans keep their promises. Dr. Yuna was examining the battle data. The shadow speakers are adapting, but so are we. Each fight teaches us more, makes us stronger. We are in an arms race with dimensional assassins, and we are holding our own. Ambassador Kira looked at the humans with something like awe. Your species is remarkable. You face impossible odds with nothing but determination and simple weapons, and you win. We are not remarkable, Jaewon said, her wounds being treated by medics. We are just stubborn, and sometimes stubborn is enough. The sun rose over the Crystal Palace. Another battle won, another promise kept. More humans had fallen, but the line had held. And across the galaxy, other human protection teams were fighting their own battles, on 100 worlds, against 1,000 threats, proving again and again that humanity deserved its place among the stars, not as the strongest species, not as the smartest, but as the most determined, the most persistent, the ones who would never give up, the galaxy's guard dogs, and the shadows had learned to fear their bite. 2 years had passed since that first question in the garden. 2 years of fighting, of learning, of growing. Taeyang stood once again in the Crystal Palace, but this time was different. This time he was not here to fight. He was here for a ceremony. The throne room was filled with representatives from across the galaxy, beings from hundreds of worlds, all gathered to witness something that had never happened before. Queen Nari stood at the center, her crystal form brilliant in the light. Beside her stood Prince Huan. The boy was 9 now, taller and more confident. But he still had that same curiosity in his eyes, that same kindness that had made Taeyang want to protect him in the first place. "We are gathered," the queen said, her voice carrying through the chamber, "to honor those who have protected us, who have stood between us and darkness, who have proven that courage is not about being fearless but about fighting despite fear." She gestured to Taeyang and his team. All of them wore formal uniforms now, the insignia of the Human Protection Corps. Over 2 years, that corps had grown to thousands of members, stationed on worlds throughout the galaxy. "Taeyang Kim," the queen said. "Step forward." He walked to the center of the room. Every eye watched him. He felt small again, insignificant, but he stood tall. "You made a promise to my son," the queen continued. "A simple promise, to protect him from the shadows. That promise has been tested many times, and you have never broken it. For this and for your service to all Velrosians, I present you with the Crystal Shield, the highest honor our people can give." She placed a medal around his neck. It was made of the same crystal as the Velrosians themselves, glowing with soft blue light. It felt warm against his chest. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Taeyang said. "But I was not alone, my team. All the humans who have fought and died protecting your people. They deserve this honor too. They will receive it," the queen promised. "Every human protector will be honored. Every sacrifice will be remembered. This is our vow to you." Prince Huan stepped forward then. "Can I say something, Mother?" The queen smiled. "Of course, my son." The prince looked at Taeyang. 2 years ago I asked you a question. I was scared. I did not understand what was happening. But you answered with one word. Always. And you kept that promise." He turned to address the entire room. "Humans are not the strongest species. They are not the most advanced. But they are the most loyal, the most determined. When they make a promise, they keep it, no matter the cost. That is why I trust them. That is why we all should trust them." The chamber erupted in sounds of approval. Different species had different ways of showing agreement, but the message was clear. Humanity had earned its place. After the ceremony, Taeyang walked through the palace gardens, the same gardens where this had all begun. The sun was setting again, casting long shadows across the marble paths. Prince Huan found him there. "Are you leaving again?" "Yes, tomorrow. There are other worlds that need protection. The Shadow Speakers." "Do they still attack?" "Sometimes. Less often now. We have learned how to fight them. They have learned that humans are not easy prey. But they have not given up completely." Huan looked at the shadows on the ground. "Are you still afraid of them?" Taeyang considered the question honestly.
"Yes, always, but I have learned something important."
"Fear is just information. It tells me to be careful, to be prepared, to stay alert. It does not control me anymore." "You taught me that," Huan said. "You and all the humans. You taught me that being afraid is okay. That courage is not about being fearless. What is it about then?" The prince smiled. "It is about keeping promises, even when you are scared, even when it is hard. That is real courage." Taeyang felt proud. The boy had learned well. "You will make a good king someday, Your Highness. When I am king, I want humans to be my royal guard. All of them. I want to be surrounded by people who keep their promises. That would be an honor." They walked together in silence for a while. The shadows grew longer, but they were just shadows now. Not threats, not monsters. Just the normal darkness that comes when light fades. Commander Bora joined them. She had been promoted to general, head of all human protection forces. "The ship is ready. We leave at dawn." "Where are you going?" Huan asked. "The Korvax system. They have been reporting strange occurrences. Temperature drops. Shadows moving wrong. We think the Shadow Speakers are testing a new target, and you will stop them. We will try. That is all anyone can do. Try. And keep trying. Never give up. Queen Nari approached them. General Bora, Taeyang, a word before you leave. They followed her to a private chamber. Inside, Ambassador Kira and Dr. Yuna waited. Yuna had been working on something, that much was clear from her excited expression. We have made a breakthrough, Yuna said. I have been studying the dimensional wounds that shadow speakers create, learning how they work, and I think I have found a way to predict their attacks. How? Bora asked. They leave traces, small distortions in space-time. We cannot see them with normal sensors, but human nervous systems can detect them. If we can teach people to recognize the feeling, to understand what it means, we can get early warning. You want to use humans as early warning systems, Taeyang said. Yes, we already have volunteers. People willing to be stationed on worlds throughout the galaxy, listening, feeling, watching for the signs. Ambassador Kira added, this changes everything. We move from reactive to proactive, from defense to early warning. The shadow speakers will lose their greatest advantage, surprise. How soon can we implement this? Bora asked. We already have. 50 human observers are in position on high-risk worlds. More are being trained every day. Within a year, we will have coverage across the entire galaxy. The Queen looked at the humans with gratitude. You continue to amaze us. Every time we think we understand your value, you show us something new. We are just doing what needs to be done, Taeyang said. Protecting those who need protection. It is what we are good at. That night, Taeyang stood on the balcony of his quarters looking out at the stars. So many worlds out there. So many people who needed protection. The task seemed endless. Minho joined him. Thinking about tomorrow? Yes, and all the tomorrows after that. This never ends, does it? The fighting, the protecting, the sacrifice. No, it does not end. But it matters. Every life we save, every promise we keep, it all matters. Jaewon and Sungho arrived. The team was complete. Ready for another mission? Jaewon asked. Always, Taeyang said, and he meant it. The next morning they said goodbye to Prince Huan one more time. The boy hugged each of them. Come back safe. All of you. We will try, Taeyang promised. And if we do not, others will take our place. That is the thing about humans. We never run out of people willing to protect others. As their ship lifted off from the crystal planet, Taeyang looked back at the palace. At the gardens where it had all begun. At the shadows that no longer frightened him. He thought about that first question. Will you protect me from the shadows? Such a simple question from a scared child. But it had changed everything. It had shown the galaxy what humanity could be. Not conquerors, not explorers, but protectors, guardians, the ones who stood between light and darkness no matter the cost. Do you think we will ever truly defeat them? Bora asked. The shadow speakers. Taeyang thought about it. I do not know. Maybe not. They are ancient, powerful, they might exist forever.
But that does not matter. Why not?
Because we do not need to defeat them forever. We just need to defeat them today, and tomorrow, and every day after that, one day at a time, one promise at a time. That is all anyone can do. Commander Bora smiled. That is very philosophical for a soldier. I learned it from a 9-year-old prince. He taught me that courage is not about being fearless. It is about keeping promises even when you are afraid. The ship entered hyperspace, jumping toward their next mission, toward the Korvax system, toward more danger, more fighting, more shadows to face, but Taeyang was not afraid. Well, he was afraid, but he had learned to use that fear, to let it guide him, to let it remind him what he was fighting for. Across the galaxy, other human protectors were having the same thoughts, facing the same dangers, making the same promises. Thousands of them now, on hundreds of worlds, standing between innocence and evil. They were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest. They were not the most advanced or the most powerful, but they were the most determined, the most loyal, the most willing to sacrifice. And in a galaxy filled with ancient empires and terrible threats, that made them exactly what was needed. The shadow speakers would return. They always did. But so would humanity. Again and again, forever if necessary, because a scared child had once asked a simple question, will you protect me from the shadows? And humanity had answered, always.